Nordstrom's retail has been a tough spot, particularly for apparel. This has been one that's been hit pretty hard.
Hey guys, right, and I'm honored to be talking about, like you said, one of Kevin's favorite names, Nordstrom. But Nordstrom is definitely a paradox for me because I view Nordstrom Rack as one of those retail names with a cult-like following and very widespread fan base, similar to that of Lululemon and even Target. However, as we've seen, the stock price has been, really beaten down over the last few years. And the shares are down at more than 60% year to date. And that's not just a product of the pandemic that we're seeing, guys. I mean, like a lot of other traditional brick and mortar retailers and department stores, Nordstrom is not doing so hot, even though its Nordstrom Rack discount brand is still very popular. And I'm seeing that all over social media. And so, with that, I want to introduce the tweet that I found for you guys today. And that one says from this Twitter user, she says, me, I'm going to lay low this weekend and not spend any money. Also me. Goes to Nordstrom Rack looking for one thing, doesn't find it, and still spends $100. So, guys, here's what I'm talking about as far as that very widespread audience, because Nordstrom Rack, unlike some other discount retailers like TJ Maxx and Marshalls, for instance, Nordstrom Rack has a wider variety of items for sale that range from a $20 blouse or a designer item that's still, pretty kind of more expensive, but discounted. So in that way, it does attract a wider audience. Something else that I want to talk to you guys about, and I don't have a tweet for this, but it's Nordstrom's Trunk Club, which is their clothing box subscription service, very similar to Stitch Fix. And I've seen a lot of tweets recently looking at both Stitch Fix and Trunk Club and some of the other either clothing box subscription services and clothing rental services, like the Newly service that Anthropology recently started. And a lot of people online are talking about how they're canceling their memberships or pausing their memberships because they just don't really have anywhere to go in order to justify the consistently updated wardrobe. Nordstrom bought Trunk Club back in 2014, I believe, for about $350 million. And since then, they've really scaled back the operation. Trunk Club used to have its own brick and mortar stores, but now it's only offered online and through the existing Nordstrom locations. So, I mean, there's a lot going on with Nordstrom. They have their full price brand, their discount brand, Nordstrom Rack, which is right now having their anniversary sale ongoing. I think you'll be talking about that with the LikeFolio crew after me. But with all of this going on, Kevin, I actually want to direct this question to you. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty with Nordstrom. Will Nordstrom be added to the long list of retail names that have declared bankruptcy this year? Or will the Nordstrom family finally take the company private? And we all know that the market doesn't like uncertainty. So how do you think about this name, Kevin, going forward with all of the unknowns?
Yeah, I think in the list of companies that are going to stay in business and not stay in business, I think Nordstrom is one of the ones that are going to stay in business. And you're right, Evelyn. There's still that little rumor out there that the Nordstrom family is still looking to take this company private. Now, in 2017, they tried to take the company private for $8 billion at $50 a share. 2017, right? They got turned down by the board because it wasn't high enough at $50 a share. Stock's currently trading $15 a share and interest rates are zero. So in terms of financing, in terms of the overall price for this company, you have to think that the Nordstrom family is looking hard at taking this company private. Remember, it's not as big as some of the other department stores. It doesn't have the same size footprint. So I still think the future is stable to bright for Nordstrom. And there's two word combinations that make me happy, Evelyn. One is free beer and the other is anniversary sale. And the anniversary sale at Nordstrom is a big deal for them annually, guys.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing, Kevin, you have to at least tip your hat to Nordstrom is the willingness to innovate and try new things. Obviously, their acquisition of Trunk Club this idea of focusing on the rack is trends. Let's just face it, are moving away from Nordstrom's traditional business model, and you need to find, if you're a company like Nordstrom, a new way to continue to bring value to customers. And they're trying different things. We'll see how it plays out. Evelyn, great stuff as always. Evelyn Baker, TD Ameritrade Network contributor. As we say goodbye to Evelyn, we want to welcome in Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, to help us break down the consumer purchase intent around Nordstrom. And Andy, I know that you were keyed in, pretty clearly into this anniversary sale, and from what I could tell, things looking a little bit dire.
Yeah, so when we look at this every year for Nordstrom because I think it's a great pulse check on the company and on the consumer. What we have here is purchase intent mentioned, so people talking about shopping specifically through this anniversary sale. Usually a very predictive indicator for us. This year the event was shifted from July to August, which means it actually changes which quarter is impacted. But so we were coming on the show, we wanted to take a look at how it's gone the first week. Anniversary sale purchase intent mentions are down 22%, which, like you said, it looks like a pretty dire number. But at the same time, last quarter's actual revenues were down 40%. So there is some reason to say that the company's getting over a really low bar in terms of expectations. Only being down 22% might actually be a win. And so that's what we're looking at right now. Definitely has to be disappointing. I would think if I were Nordstrom, with all of the focus on e-commerce and digital sales channels that are doing very well for them, at least compared to the desolation that's happening at malls. If I were them, I would have wanted to see this come out of the gates at 2019 levels or better. I don't think that they're going to get there based on LikeFolio data. But, as Kevin said, I do think that Nordstrom is in a class all of its own among discount department stores. And there's always that rumor out there of, you kind of feel like you might have a backstop from the family taking it private. On the other hand, you never know if there are some rumors out there also that the company sometimes sandbags its outlooks, trying to get the family in a little cheaper. So you don't really know how to play that going private angle other than, like Kevin said, there was high interest in it a few years ago at $50 a share. I have to think that's probably even more so the case down at $15 per share. But in terms of the business itself, we kind of see Nordstrom getting some reason for hope that their anniversary sales aren't down as much as their sales were last quarter, but in total, still not a really great scene for discount retailers across the board.
Yeah, Andy, when I look at stocks like this, and your numbers, there was a good spike, but Nordstrom, it just gets the feel from a trading perspective. Now, I'm only talking about the trading perspective. I know what the rumors are out there. I understand what the reality is out there. But from a trading perspective, I look at a company like Nordstrom, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong. And based on the numbers that you're seeing and based on the price of this stock, my view, what jumps out at me is I can see the ground from here in Nordstrom at $15. And if I'm going to take a long-term view of this company, like, a year or more out, I got to think that my risk is minimal here at $15 a share. I want somebody to tell me why I'm wrong, Andy.
Well, the only reason you're wrong is, kind of that old math reason is that you can always lose 100% of your money, no matter how expensive the stock is. But I do think that you're right. From a long-term perspective, I look at Nordstrom like, there may be, coming up soon, there may be some more short-term opportunities if you like this stock long-term. And I do think that there are really solid reasons to like this stock and this company long-term. I think that there's a reason the family wants to take it private. There are good reasons for that. I do think that the speed bumps are not all behind them, and LikeFolio data shows that pretty clearly when their big sale of the year is just continues to fall a little flat. And those 2019 numbers that we're comparing to, as you can see, were not outstanding at all. Those were down extremely significantly from 2018. So you're down even further from that. You can see how last year that was predictive of the stock in terms of a massive drop just a couple months later. So this is one of the most predictive indicators we have, and it's not showing any recovery off of what were really low 2019 levels.
Andy, since we have a little bit of time here, I want to just take kind of the opposite side here. I look at Nordstrom's, and I hear everything you're saying, but if you're going to invest, and both of you guys, if you're going to invest in something for the long term, there's always that opportunity cost that there was another investment that would have, outperformed that. And so if I'm looking at this company, I start thinking about what trends are doing. I know that's a huge thing that you're tracking at LikeFolio. I know we talked about Nordstrom as a discount store, but that's really only part of their business. I wouldn't say the regular Nordstrom department store is a discount store at all. In fact, I don't think there's really any incentive to go there and buy things over this going directly to the, potential brand and getting it right there. So, Trunk Club, things are moving away from the subscription box, as Evelyn pointed out, particularly because right now people aren't doing much, but in general, those trends are seeming to be moving away. So really the bright spot of Nordstrom's business is this kind of treasure hunting Nordstrom Rack side of the business, but that's the lowest margin business that they have, is it not? Andy, I'll kick that to you.
Yeah, no, it is. And you're right. I mean, it's their off-price and e-commerce that is saving the day. I think it's 60% of their revenue at this point, as the malls are pretty much shuttered. No one's really going into the classic Nordstrom stores. I think that you're absolutely right. There are extremely high risks to all of these businesses. When I'm talking about Nordstrom from a long-term perspective, I'm talking about it versus peers. And I think that it's in a class of its own versus those peers. Now, that doesn't mean that you necessarily need to be involved in that peer group at all. But amongst peers, Nordstrom is doing pretty well, and I think could do quite well comparatively long-term. But all of them have some very significant headwinds coming in the very near future.
Well said, Andy. I think if we tie that in, Kevin, I got a question for you, because I think what he's describing here is, well, if you win your peer group also, that could be a huge opportunity down the line. I mean, right now there's a ton of competition in this space between the Nordstroms. Obviously, Macy's is another one in this space, but there's tons of them. And if kind of competitors can't weather the storm and you ultimately emerge as the one key, remaining department store, that could be a huge opportunity for a company like Nordstrom's. I mean, people are still shopping there. Maybe it's not as much as it was in the past, but there are still people going to these stores.
Yeah, I mean, one good future bet for Nordstrom could be the fact that attrition could take a lot of your competitors away. And if you're the last pure apparel retail full price firm standing, then you're a huge winner. And think about this. TJX, which does a very good job and has made it, looks like they've made it through most of this. That's basically Nordstrom Rack is their entire business model. That's only a fraction of what Nordstrom does, and an evolution towards more Nordstrom Racks and less Nordstrom full price, along with e-commerce, could be the right prescription that gets them through this and into the future. So I'm always interested to see how they determine what they're doing and what their game plan is. Obviously, malls are, starting to come back from some pretty low levels. But Nordstrom Rack, I have one very close to my home. There's lines out the door every time I drive by there, especially midday Saturday, midday Sunday. They are waiting to get in that store. And it's that, like you said, Alex, that treasure hunt where you got to go in there to see what they have, like TJ Maxx, like some of these other stores. So, it is not a short-term bet in JW Nordstrom, and our trade will reflect that. But, remember, if this stock just goes to $20, remember, less than a third of what it was just a year or so ago, you've got a 33% winner. So in terms of percentage winners and things like that, I don't know. I think the risk reward might be attractive, guys.
Yeah. Hey, one more thing, guys. One more thing on this.
Yeah, Kevin, hold that thought.
Yep.
One more thing. So
ahead,
just
Go
real
ahead,
quick,
real quick.
when we talk about department stores and we show the graphics that we show, we're only showing public companies, and we tend to have this lens as investors. But what Nordstrom Rack, what Kevin's talking about with competitors, I mean, you talk about decimated. Every small boutique in the country
Yes.
is on its last leg right now. We've got shutdowns across Main Street, and the only ones left standing are these well-capitalized companies. When people start coming back to shop, there's going to be a lot fewer options. It's not just what's on the screen on the trading platforms that we need to understand. TJ Maxx, Nordstrom, even Macy's, terrible companies like Macy's and Dell, they're going to be there, and a lot of other stores are not. And it's a shame for our country, but it could be good for these companies coming back into a much less competitive environment.